Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Oden, and you are watching the Political Vigilante. We try at this show to cover as much about the environment as we can. We are facing climate collapse. Things don't look good, but there's a lot of actual positive projects out there. So first, let's talk about the reality of the situation. This is Mike. We follow him. Mike Hudima, the fossil fuel industry gets $11 million every single minute in subsidies. How many more disasters does it take before we stop funding? And then he plays this video like this. Look at this. This is pretty gnarly. $11 million a minute in subsidies, right? This is The Guardian. This is from The Guardian. It's just 2 years old. Fossil fuel industry gets subsidies, $11 a minute, the IMF finds. Oh, the IMF, the innocent little International Monetary Fund. Trillions of dollars a year are adding fuel to the fire of the climate crisis, experts say. The IMF found the production and burning of coal, oil, and gas was subsidized by $5.9 trillion. This is in 2020, with not a single country pricing all its fuel sufficiently to reflect their full supply and environmental costs. Experts said the subsidies were adding fuel to the fire of the climate crisis at a time when rapid reductions in carbon emissions were urgently needed. Explicit subsidies that cut fuel prices around accounted for 8% of the total, and tax breaks another 6%. Yeah, the fuel industry, the fossil fuel company, they're little mom and pop startup and they need a tax break. Yeah, it's just hard. You give like a small business owner a low interest loan so they can just get their feet off the ground. Yeah, that's what Exxon and British Petroleum, that's what they need. Just a little help. Just a little help just to make their little mom and pop business go better. The biggest factors were failing to make polluters pay for the deaths and poor health caused by air pollution, 42%, and for the heat waves and other impacts, right? So we got to show you this. I have a lot of posts from Mike. Let's find, where's this map? Here we go. Look at this. Look at the map. Look at the years. Oh, it's blue, it's red, it's blue, it's red. Everything. Oh, yeah, there's cold and heat and cold and heat. And oh, since the 90s, everything's getting redder and redder and redder. March of 2024 broke all-time records last month. It's the spring in the north. We haven't even gotten into the summer in the northern hemisphere. So what are the solutions? Right? That's the reality. It's a serious reality. There's the doom and gloom, right? Costa Rica has one of the country wants to transform the entire economy. And I've been to Costa Rica. They have very forward. So how long will Costa Rica get there? By 2050, all buses and taxis will be electric. The state-owned petroleum distributor will be instructed to research alternatives for fuel like hydrogen and biofuel, all while helping fossil fuel workers move to new clean energy jobs. Costa Rica generates 90% of its electricity from renewables and is planning to expand its forests, which already cover more than half of the country. If the plan works, Costa Ricans will have the same carbon footprint in 2035 as they did in 1940. And by 2050, no carbon footprint at all. Critics say researching the goal will be hard and expensive. Demand for oil is actually growing in Costa Rica due to heavy car use. But if the plan works, Costa Rica could be a model for the rest of the world. As nations try to limit global warming to less than 2%, 2 degrees, could your country follow Costa Rica's example? Now, that's from the World Economic Forum, which I'm not a huge fan of the World Economic Forum, but I am also aware of what Costa Rica is doing. And it's smart, right? Here's an electric cruise ship. So it's pretty dire with the climate, but there's solutions out there. Costa Rica passed some pretty progressive climate policy back in the 90s. And it's one of the cleanest countries I've ever been to. I'm hoping El Salvador does similar stuff. El Salvador has a very, a really good visionary president in Bukele who made Bitcoin legal tender, and he locked up all the criminals. And because El Salvador has had 4 or 5 decades of civil war and violence, they have a lot of problems. There's still a lot of stuff to be fixed. They're addressing the schools, and they're making the schools better. If you saw my interview of the Minister of Education on the Orange Pill podcast, he talked about they put broadband in the schools. They're giving all the kids tablets. They're teaching Bitcoin education. Like the schools are becoming way better than they were, which is great. I hope they start to tackle. Some of it is they have a lot of unregulated diesel engines, and they still burn their trash in large portions of the country, and their leaves and stuff like that. But that's all fixable. Look what the president in El Salvador did. And I hope honestly, Costa Rica adopts Bitcoin, the Bitcoin policy of El Salvador. And I hope El Salvador adopts Costa Rica's environmental policy. And I hope that spreads throughout Latin America and the world, because that's critical. And smaller countries are going to probably be impacted by the environment more in the short run. America's very much impacted by climate, but the country's so big but a small country, if you have massive flooding or forest fires and half your country's on fire, what are you going to do, right? So I think there's a lot of solutions out there, and I try to show these solutions because I want to see things get better. And when I go to a country like El Salvador and I see, like, financially and security-wise, it got changed so quickly because of a very visionary president in Bukele and a lot of smart people around him and helping out to make it the country that it is. And I think it'll only get better. But in countries that don't have great leaders like that, the people need to put the pressure on, because there's only one planet here. And if the environment collapses, or we have World War III, because America is pushing World War III, both in the Middle East by supporting Israel and with Russia and what we're doing in Ukraine, we're all done. And it won't matter how much Bitcoin I have, or El Salvador, or you, or anybody else has, we're all done. Same thing if the environment goes belly up, it won't matter. So we have to fix these two very immediate problems. And I believe anything can be fixed, because, 3 years ago, spring of 2021, no one was talking about El Salvador. No one was talking about it. And then bam, all of a sudden, Bukele passes the law in like June. It becomes law in September of 21. Then in March of 22, he arrests all the gang members. So it's amazing stuff can happen in a short amount of time, and we need to do that with the environment. And I'm glad there's a country like Costa Rica that's sort of leading the way. And in the same way that El Salvador is leading the way financially, Costa Rica is leading the way, and other countries are leading the way with the environment. So that's what I'd like to see. And, vote with your dollars, support green initiatives, try to be as green as you can in your life, but it's really going to be a top-down solution for that. It's another reason I'm in favor of Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes the environmental issue. So, because it takes the money out of the central banks. The central banks help fund and profit from climate collapse. They fund the fossil fuel industry, as we just showed you. So, like, share, subscribe, guys. Go to GrahamElwood.com and support us at patreon.com/GrahamElwood, where you get the live streams and the archive of all the full live streams, because they go behind a paywall as soon as we're done live streaming. And the audio podcast of this, you don't get it anywhere else except for Patreon. And you can also support us at rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.